Pacifica Health Talanoa, proudly brought to you by Pacific Heartbeat at the Heart Foundation.
Warm Pacific greetings and welcome again to Pacifica Health Talanoa. My name is Mafi Funaki Tahifote, a dietitian, Pacific Health Manager at Pacific Heartbeat Heart Foundation, and it is my pleasure to be having in the room Balangi Sue Pirret.
Warm Pacific greetings, everybody, and thanks for putting on a nice day today, because especially as Muffy and I forgot to bring our umbrella down to the studio, so it's good to be here.
Great, and in the last 4 weeks, Balangi Sue, we've talked about what is healthy eating and what does it look like and so forth.
We have.
And we've talked about that healthy eating is actually eating from the 4 food groups.
Yep.
So, looking back.
So, Muffy, just a little bit of revision. Can you remember how many servings from the 4 food groups and what those groups are?
Yeah, I didn't know you were going to put me on the spot there, Sue, when I said revision. We've got a lot of foods in front of us.
Yes.
And if I remember back to our conversation about the 4 food groups, as Pacific people, we eat a lot of from our meat, from our buak, our chicken,
That's like our
beef, and you've got here there in your hand, I can see you've got pork chops, and is that chicken?
Yep.
So I recall that from that group in a day, that's the smallest amount of food we should be having in a day. So that would be one.
Maybe just a little bit more than one, but
more
around
than
one. Shame. Sorry about that, Muffy.
And then I recall that we usually hear from our children around 5+ a day. They'll put up their hands 5+ a day, and that will be our 3 vegetables and our 2 fruit. And then what you've got in front of you, so I can see you've got carrots, broccoli and some beans and mixed vegetables.
Yes, and those frozen mixed vegetables are just as good as the fresh ones.
And they're very colourful.
Often
very
more convenient.
Colourful.
Have as many of those as you like.
So that's the group that has
the
a
plus.
And then I am looking at what we've got here. We've got empty bottles of milk with different coloured tops, and we've also got some cheese, and I've got a bottle of yogurt, a small one, and you've got a kilo of yogurt. So from that group, from the milk and anything made from milk, like our yogurt and our cheese, that would be compared to the other 2 groups we've talked about, to have 2 of those.
Yes, 2 over the day. That's right, to get our calcium. That's right. Yeah.
And then the last one, and I'm looking, we've got a bowl of porridge in front of me. We've got a couple of breads, and on your side, Sue, you've got some
rice.
Some rice. So in that group, it will be our grains.
That's our grains,
and it will be the number 6.
And if we can try and have those whole grains, the ones that still have the shell on them, that's great.
It will be better for us. So there goes our 4 food groups, and how much we have is what we have a lot of is what we should have the least of.
Well done, Muffy. And I know at Pacific Heartbeat, I often hear you talking about how Pacific families are very, very busy with their work and the kids going to school, and you've got church and you've got sports and things. So, why should families who are already busy, why should they bother, trying to get these 4 food groups every day?
Yeah, I know, because not many of us have the 4 food groups in a day. We could simply just have a piece of taro and some fish and no vegetables in there. That's just eating from 2 groups. It could be bread, or we could go throughout the day with no milk or cheese or yogurt or anything like that. But we think, it's fine to miss a group here and there. But I think what you're saying, Sue, why should we bother? As Pacific communities, and we should be bothered. Because what we are receiving information about is that our Pacific people are dying a lot younger than anybody else. So this is not talking about dying in their 60s. This is our mums and dads dying between the ages of 35 and 65. So people in their 30s, our families in their 30s, are being taken from this world a lot earlier than they should be. And we need those mums and dads to be around to raise the kids, to be the future of our communities, our country that we've made home in Aotearoa. So it's something small and it may appear not that important, but when you look at the big picture and what it all adds up to, we don't want families to be dying too early, and we should be bothered about
So it's
that.
massively important.
It's massive.
And I suppose really the body needs these 4 food groups for it to work properly, and that's a bit like our car, isn't it, Muffy? I was thinking, you know, to get your car going in the morning, you need the petrol, you need the oil, got to have a spark plug in it, unless you've got an electric car. Got to have it plugged into the wall anyway, and then you need your mechanic to keep it tuned up. So you've got to have all those things to get your car going properly. So we need all these, all that nutrition from these 4 food groups to get our bodies going every day, don't we? So they can last throughout the day.
And it's like when you're talking about the car, it's just like our body, our arms need the legs and the eyes need the ears.
Yes.
They all have specific functions or specific roles that they play, and then together they meet a complete...
Make it perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
So we need the 4 food groups.
Okay. Every day. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we're looking at the weeks that's been, I know for many of our Pacific people, we talk about the 4 food groups, but I know that portion, how much we have, and is that what we're covering today in today's program, Palangisu?
Well, we did think it was good to start talking about what that would look like at a meal, because you know, we've been talking about what you have over a whole day, but how does that look on our plate? And I've got a blank plate here. You know, how would that look like on our plate? So we thought today we'd just talk about breakfast and maybe some snacks, and what that looks like on our plate. Say if we're having
some foods and how it will fit into that plate.
Absolutely. And just because we want to have a look visually at that, and we know how Pacifica really love looking at visual things, so Palangi Sue's got a really handy tool for you today, Muffy.
You do?
And I was just wondering if you could guess what that handy tool is, so we can organise the portions on our plate. Can you have a guess?
I'm having a hint there, Palangisu, about you emphasising the word handy.
Good
and
guess,
I'm
Muffy.
Guessing it will have to be something with a hand.
Very good guess, Muffy. So, yes, we can use our hand to actually sort out the portions on our plate. So, what do you think, how big a portion using your hand do you think would be a good guide for those starchy white foods like the potato, the rice, the taro, the kumara, the green banana? What sort of a portion, what sort of a shape on your hand do you think we could use?
As you're describing a kumara, taro, they'll be round. So I'm looking at my hand, I'm putting it in front of here. That would be something round. So if I put it into a fist, it will be a guide.
Yeah, brilliant, Muffy. Yeah, and just looking at my fist compared to Muffy's, you have to use your own fist, because lucky Muffy, she's got a much bigger fist than me. Palangi Sue's is real small. But looking at that on our plate, it fills up about a quarter of our plate. So here I've got some mashed potato, and on our plate, or I've got some brown rice. And there, it fills up about a quarter of our plate. So it's about a fist size.
So you've got an empty plate there, Sue, and you're putting either the rice, the brown rice, or the mashed potato. It does take up
could be
about
the taro,
a quarter
about a
of
quarter,
your plate.
Yeah.
And that's a dinner plate, not a bread plate.
Yeah, and that's a small dinner plate, not a big one.
Not a big one.
And what about the favourite, the Pacific favourite, the meat and the chicken and the...
well, using our hand, I know that you were grabbing a pork chop there, and if I've got my hand flattened out, and I know in Tongan we'll say nima includes also my fingers, but the size of the pork chop that you've given me, placing it on my flattened out hand, it's just below the base of my fingers, so it's in the Palangi word, that's the palm.
And yes, Muffy, that's your palm, not your whole arm. It's your palm.
And that size.
So try that chicken to see if that will fit into the palm.
So if I've got 2 chicken, this is chicken flesh or kano mate imo, onto my hand, that would be fits well into
Fits
the palm.
nicely. Yep,
Yeah,
perfect.
and we were talking about the food groups. It's one of that a day.
So now on our plate, we've got our fistful of potato or taro, and we've got our palm-size pork chop. So we've got half the plate done. And what about the fish?
The fish, I've got filet fish here. And if I put it on my hand, so it will include the fingers, but
You've got a big hand,
my
Muffy.
palm is a bit
You can have a bigger
oversized.
piece. You can have a bigger piece of fish than Palangi
Move it
Sue.
around.
Look at me. That's probably about right for me.
Yeah, for your palm, it
Poor
fits
me.
just about right.
Your whole hand, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's not with the fingers out like that. It's with
Yeah.
the fingers.
So you
in,
can have a
yeah.
bit more if you're having fish.
Yes, a bit more if you're having fish. Yes. And what about our colourful vegetables, Muffy?
Our colourful vegetables, our cabbage, our taro leaves, our cucumber, broccoli, celery, mushroom, all of that. I'm actually putting out my both hands.
Yes.
Putting it together and cupping it. Is that the Palangi word I should use, Sue?
Cupping it.
Cupping it into like a bowl. So if I place, and you've got a half of that plate in front of you, you've got broccoli, carrots and beans fitting half of the plate.
And it's about 2 cupped hands full, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's about the same. And you don't just have to have fresh veggies. You could have those easy peasy frozen ones. You just snip the corner, just quickly boil them for a couple of minutes, and half the plate colourful vegetables, because they have hardly any calories or energy in them, so they don't put any on any weight. So have as much as that's the plus. Those
Great.
colourful vegetables, very good, Muffy.
And if they're frozen, they maybe if they're not in season, those vegetables, they could be a lot cheaper.
Absolutely.
And some good quality.
Got room in your
vegetables
freezer,
there.
just throw them in there. That's a great idea. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
So I suppose we should talk about breakfast now.
Yeah,
Muffy?
and the word breakfast, break the fast. Why should we bother about having breakfast?
Well, from all the evidence that we've been reading about it does show that people that have breakfast do have more energy for their day. So kids that get breakfast, they can think better, they do more physical activity, they do more exercise, you can think better at work, so that's a great reason that you have more energy. And also it gives you one more, if you miss out on your breakfast, we've just been talking about the 4 food groups, so we've missed an opportunity to have some of those food groups in the breakfast, like the grains, like the porridge, like the whole grain bread, or like the egg, like the protein, the milk. So those are a couple of reasons. And also, what happens, Muffy, if you miss your breakfast, how do you feel at 10 o'clock? Are you going to go and
starving.
You'll be starving. Are you going to go and have a couple of wheat bix with some nice trim milk on it? Or what are you going to do?
I think
Own up, Muffy. Be honest.
I think all the good thinking and the wise decisions probably go out the window when you're hungry. I'm not sure about you, Sue, but anything goes when you're really hungry, and whatever's in front of you, you just go for it.
Yeah, that's it. And I know Namai, she shared with us last week that she was hungry, and she went into the tea room and she saw the jar of cookies there, and then there was an apple. But what did she choose? Not the apple, the cookies. So so there we go. We've got it from Namai that's what happens if we don't have our regular meals, and especially our breakfast.
I remember that the conversations we've had on the 4 food groups, she decided, oh no, the ladies are going to be in the studio. She brought out an apple. So good call.
Goody two shoes. Yeah. So Muffy, what are some good examples that you think Pacific families would like to have for their breakfast? Is there anything there that would be
I think before
helpful?
we go into examples, Palangi Sue, it is important to know that on a daily basis, on an everyday basis, a lot of our Pacific don't have breakfast every day. So about 6 or 7 in 10 Pacific don't have breakfast. That's more than half.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a lot. So what we're encouraging here is anything is better than nothing at all. So they've got leftover chopped soy with taro from the previous evening. have that rather than going without breakfast at all. But if they are having breakfast, we've got here an array of different options, and we've got a bowl of porridge, and you can sweeten it by just adding another fruit. And we've got a ripe banana, and notice the size of the banana. It's a small banana, so if it's a large banana, halve that. Especially if you've got diabetes, you want to control those blood sugar levels well at breakfast. Or
could we have some tin fruit? Is that all right? It's tin
so
fruit.
if there's not fresh fruit at home, you can add tin fruit.
Yes.
But I see that's in juice, so it's not in syrup. So you drain the liquid.
Drain it out because it's got a lot of sugar in it.
It's got a lot of sugar and the liquid.
Yeah, great idea.
Or you can chop up apples in there, but if you don't have the fruit, you've got yogurt at home. Just a bottle of yogurt and add it into your porridge.
There's a one for the family, the bigger one, isn't it?
Yeah, and that will be cheaper, a kilo of yogurt rather than the smaller.
The little one?
Probably the little one's good for kids' lunches. Or if you've got some bread, wholemeal bread would be the best option. And as you were talking about, that it's got
whole grain, still got the shell on it.
Shells on it.
Yeah.
And it could be that you have eggs on toast, or you've got baked beans on toast.
Brilliant breakfast.
Bit of protein in there to last you longer, because it makes you feel fuller for longer.
Or even just some peanut butter on if you're in a rush.
Yeah, put peanut butter, or if you're in a rush, you can do a monkey roll, which is a banana inside.
Perfect.
A piece of bread.
Yeah.
Or you could with Wheat
Bix.
With peanut butter on it, or with a bit of milk. And you can choose from the milk options. Of course, the light green has got the most calcium for our bones and teeth.
Right.
But the least fat, and then you've got light blue. So those are some of the options that they can have to kickstart the engine in the morning. Break that fast.
Yeah. And just a couple of quick tips I thought I'd share from our courses, from our nutrition courses, because I know Namai's got to get going on her show. But one tip was that you can see here, viewers, that we've got wheat biscuits, the home brand wheat biscuits, and they're just as good as Wheat Bix, as the Sanitarium Wheat Bix. Because and they're a little bit cheaper, so it's a good way to save a bit of money. And there's actually 2 more biscuits in the home brand. So these home brands are often just as good as the branded ones, like the Sanitarium Wheat Bix. Also, the whole grain bread. We had one of our participants in our courses said her family was eating 6 loaves of white bread a day. And then when she changed to whole grain bread, they cut it right down to 2. So they were saving, hundreds of dollars a year. Yeah. And it's also the same with the brown rice. Because it's still got the shell on it, it's got the roughage in it, so it fills us up. So you don't use as much as if you have the white rice. You don't eat as much as if you have the. So those are, and as we said, the canned fruit is another good one, or even powdered milk. If we can afford to buy a bag of powdered milk, it goes a lot further.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about portions today as well. Thoughtful eating is also another tip. Yeah. That the slower we eat, the less amount of food we will be eating. So rather than 2 plates, we'll probably, slowly eating, we'll only be having a plate. Yeah. So it will reduce the amount of food that we're having.
Yeah, and just to go over those, we've already chatted about snacks, but if you've had your breakfast and it's not quite lunchtime and you're still feeling hungry, well, have a little snack. But the definition of a snack is that it's small and healthy. It's just to get us through to the next meal. It's not actually another meal.
Just
so
a
Muffy's
small
got
banana,
a couple of
just
examples
a small banana,
there.
A handful of nuts, or a bottle of yogurt, or it could be just that slice of bread. With peanut butter on, that's a snack. But it has to be small, fitting into one.
Just to get us through to the next meal. Yeah. So just quickly to finish off, just for your taro and your potato, what on your hand, Muffy? Your fist. And what about your meat?
The meat will be the palm of my hand.
And what about your colourful vegetables?
Colourful vegetables that I'm cupping 2 cupped hands. Yeah. And of course, remembering the fish. It will be the whole hand. Palm, the whole hand.
Well done, Muffy. And high fives, high hands to you. And we'll carry on next week.
We'll carry on next week about how much portions should we be having, and continue with lunch and afternoon tea.
Look forward to it. Yeah, getting hungry already.
And from the two of us, thank you for joining us
Thank you
at the
very
Pacific
much.
Health Talanoa. Until next time.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Muffy.
Pacifica Health Talanoa, proudly brought to you by Pacific Heartbeat at the Heart Foundation.
Yay, Vinaka ladies. Pacific Health Talanoa with the Heart Foundation's Pacific Heartbeat team, Supirit and Mafi Funaki Tahi Forte. It's 27 after 2, news in Tongan, that's next. And, okay, shall we make it easy for our families? First caller through gets the $50 voucher so that they won't go hungry, that they will be able, our family members would be able to buy healthy foods that you've just mentioned and showed us. Yay. Okay, first caller through 0800 000 531. Here's Lisa with 10 guitars, 5:31 p.m. I'm so hungry.
Hi there,